Hey everyone, and welcome to our Balanced Druid Shadowlands Alpha preview. This spec has, well look, it's essentially received a major mechanics revamp, making it feel very, very different to play indeed. As always, there are pros and cons, though certainly this is one of the more interesting Shadowlands changes, that is for sure. For revamps like this, we are taking a bit more of a formal style, whereas smaller changes like, say, the Demon Hunter will be a little bit more sort of hands-on. Here, though, it's all about the fundamental class changes, right? Fundamental, not the new borrowed power systems. The base health of the classes, and that means that Covenants and Soulbinds, well, they won't be properly testable for a while anyway, and I'd rather do those at max level, when it's actually a bit more relevant. So, that is the plan. This video is brought to you by our other channel. Do you want to balance out your Warcraft coverage with a general view of the games industry? Well, that's our channel's the place to do that. 4 to 6 industry news analysis videos per week, so you can check that out. And with that, let's go. Alright, let's jump right into it. So, the new Eclipse system wholly changes how this spec feels to play. And it sure does have its pros and its cons. I actually think that a lot of people won't find this to be as simple and intuitive. Basically, right, the old style of getting your empowerments is gone, but you still do have the same familiar abilities. You've got Wrath, Starfire, which used to be called Lunar Strike, Star Surge, Starfall, and then of course your 2 damage over times. The difference here is that instead of generating the empowerments and then putting that into your Starfire or your Wrath, well now Starfire and Wrath have got a chance to give you an Eclipse. Now, there are 2 different types of Eclipse. There's the Lunar one and the Solar one. The Lunar one will double the AoE damage component of Starfire and then also make your cast time be a bit faster. Then the Solar one, again, basically just increases the damage of Wrath by 20% and reduces its cast time by 20%, which actually is very different to what you'd be used to, because in Battle for Azeroth, well, what does Solar Empowerment do? It adds an AoE component to Wrath, and that would mean that both Wrath and Lunar Strike can be useful in an AoE situation. Of course, Lunar Strike now called Starfire. So that's no longer the case. So what does that mean? Well, it does mean that you don't really want to be using Wrath in an AoE situation, and you really, in an AoE situation, would want to focus on being in your Lunar Eclipse. So, how do you get an Eclipse? Well, Wrath has a 25% chance to generate, or to proc, a Lunar Eclipse, and then Lunar Strike has got a 25% chance to give you a Solar Eclipse. Now, outside of your cooldown, you won't have both eclipses up at once. They're mostly mutually exclusive, of course, outside of your cooldown. Now, both of them last for 13 seconds, and you can only have each one happen every 30 seconds. But there is something that changes that, because Star Surge will now increase the duration of your current eclipse by 3 seconds. So basically, the goal is to get into the eclipse that you want, and then to extend that eclipse as long as you can to a point by pulling up your astral power that, of course, Wrath and Starfire generate, and then, of course, using Star Surge. So, as an example, right, in an AoE situation, this would mean you're spamming Wrath until you get a Lunar Eclipse. And then, of course, you switch over to Starfire. Now, during that Lunar Eclipse, you'll want to then spam your Star Surges to deal some damage and then also extend the Eclipse. Now, that said, that does cost you Astral Power, which does tie into Starfall, which I will talk about in a bit. But basically, remember here, right, you just want to get as much time in the Lunar Eclipse as you can, and then you've got to remember that you can trigger your Lunar Eclipse every 30 seconds. Now, that means that you'll want to extend your Lunar Eclipse, which has a duration by default of 13 seconds, by as close to 17 seconds as you can, and that's going to mean maybe 4, 5, or 6 Star Surges during it. So if you do those Star Surges, then your Eclipse will last for maybe 25 to 30 seconds, which means that its internal cooldown will have reset. And that's when you'll want to switch to spamming Wrath in the hopes of course, having that 25% chance per Wrath of triggering another Lunar Eclipse. Though that does leave you with the strange situation of, yeah, Wrath does not do AoE damage, yet there you are in an AoE situation, and you're spamming Wrath. Now, of course, what really is important here is actually tracking the internal cooldown of your Eclipse, which basically is going to mean you're using a weak aura. So that's basically it for AoE, right? In single target, it's just literally the opposite. You'll be using your Starfires to try to trigger a Solar Eclipse, so that you can then just get as many Wraths that are empowered as you can. So that's basically how that works, and essentially the core here, right, is that you're fishing for the Eclipse that you want, and then you're extending that up to 30 seconds using your Star Surges. Now, one thing that is very different that I really noticed fast is, say, back in Legion and BFA, Star Surge gave you one empowerment of Solar and Lunar. Here, though, it just extends Eclipse. Now, that actually means that your opener is far, far weaker feeling unless you pop Celestial Alignment, which is your main cooldown. It gives you both Eclipses and a crit buff that lasts while they're up, which means that, yes, if you extend those two Eclipses via your Star Surges, you'll get the crit buff for longer. Now, in BFA, right, so that 50 AP that you start with, if you've talented in that way, well, that would be enough, right, that you could just pop a Star Surge, get 2 empowerments, and then get straight into it. Whereas here, that's not actually the case. You actually have to start every fight by fishing for the Eclipse that you want. Okay, next, it's time for the other major change, and that is Starfall. Basically, it's back to its old style. You pop Starfall, stars will fall, and they'll damage enemies around you without you actually needing to target it on the floor. And so far, from my experience, it doesn't pull everything around you. It's just focused on enemies that are in combat with you. I would say, hey, Blizz, if you could add a glyph that would make that pull enemies around you, that would be really nice for farming, and that would be something I'd really like. But yes, overall, the new Starfall is really fun. I really do like it. You can stack up your dots, you can pop this, and then you can just run around the place looking a bit silly. And then, hell, if you talent into the Stellar Drift talent, then you can cast while moving during the duration of Starfall, which is pretty sweet. It actually might be so good that it may just knock the rest of that talent row out of existence. Now, level 52, you get rank 2 of Starfall, and that one will extend the duration of your damage over time spells. So there you go. That is, in terms of the most core gameplay, the changes to the balanced Druid. You've got the same spells, but man, do they feel very, very different to use indeed. Before I go to pros, cons, and suggested fixes, I'm going to just cover some cool talents. Now, I don't want to overly focus on talents too much with a revamp spec like this because really everything could be shuffled about quite a bit as the alpha progresses, but that said, there are some nice synergies with this new gameplay style. Right, it's all about extending those eclipses to the 30 seconds, and then I suppose also in an AoE situation, being able to maintain your Starfall. And that's something you can prepare for. New Moon works really quite well here indeed, as the AP surge means more Star Surges or being able to maintain your Starfall. Now, combine that with, say, the Star-Lord haste buff, and you really could be elongating those eclipses. Certainly, if you're going to be doing AoE, then Warrior of Elune has got a bit of a new meaning, because during that eclipse, those 3 instant Starfires deal 100% more damage, and the increased AP generation from those goes right back into more Star Surges, or perhaps, say, a Starfall to elongate your rolling dots. And then also finally, Incarnation, the upgraded version of Celestial Alignment, basically, it being a bit more powerful and you being able to extend that longer and longer. Of course, it does feel pretty good as well. But with that said, let's just jump straight into the cons, because I do believe there absolutely are cons to how this spec feels to play. I'm going to be real with you. Opening feels really bad for me here. In BFA, right, you slam them with that Star Surge that you start off with, and then you get one of each empowerment, and that kicks you right into your core rotation. And I think that feels great for general gameplay, going about the world, or maybe, you know, just if you're in a dungeon and you're sort of doing one pack here, one pack there, you're not doing MDI Gigapools. That's kind of gone for Shadowlands. You'll only feel powerful during an eclipse. And getting that eclipse means you've got to rely on a 25% proc. So if the RNG does not favor you, it really can suck. And then because, let's just say you're in a single target situation and you want to get that solar eclipse, right? Well, that really can feel quite bad. You'll want that solar eclipse for the wrath damage, but if you're putting in maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 star strikes or starfires to get that, with it being a 2-second cast, I mean, not getting blessed by RNG does feel really bad there, because you know you're using your sort of less AP generating AoE-ish spell in order to get into your single target mode. And that doesn't really feel that great, I'd say. It does not feel satisfying. Then there is another thing. In World of Warcraft, right, you spam spell buttons back to back so that you don't have any downtime. I'm sure many of you will remember that classic how to do really good DPS video by Kripparrian all the way back in Wrath. Right, you want to cast back to back. It's what we naturally do. So let's say, right, you're in AoE. You'll be casting back to back Wraths, trying to fish for your lunar eclipse. Well, by the time that eclipse appears, you'll have started another Wrath cast. Of course, that's not what you'll want to be casting, and I don't think that feels too good. So essentially, right, there's problems here that I think really do present themselves in an everyday gameplay context. Now, in a raiding context and a longer fight, that's far less the case, but certainly the move from BFA to Shadowlands has made the day-to-day balanced druiding for me feel actually a decent bit worse. But that said, there is an upside. It's no longer a spec that is about pressing the shiny button all the time. You do have to plan. That planning is rewarded, and that leads me to the pros of this spec. The first pro is that good players really will shine quite a bit here. Now, there were lots of situations where you could shine, of course, back in past expansions, but here, well, depending on the needs of their situation, the good players will know what Eclipse they want, and they'll be extending that as much as they can, up to that 30 seconds, because they'll be using weak auras to track the internal cooldown of their Eclipses. So they'll be pulling AP, they'll be using their Star Surge as well, they'll know exactly what time they want to start fishing for the Eclipse that they want. You know, a single target coming up. Well, once the current Eclipse ends and you verify that the internal cooldown of the solar eclipse is where you want it to be, then you can start doing your Starfires. You can time that well, and you can be optimal. And then you can maintain being optimal by, say, extending that by good gameplay, good usage of your Star Surges, and then any of the talents that generate AP that you've got. Now, that said, I think I'll say this, it does not feel like you've got a massive amount of control, but it's more that you can sort of shift and weigh things in your favor. I think the downsides are just when the RNG is annoying. Certainly, yes, as I said, you will need to have a weak aura to track the internal cooldown of your eclipses, as, you know, you wouldn't really want to be trying to fish for a solar eclipse, right, when with your Starfire, when in fact the solar one has got maybe, let's just say 5 seconds left on its internal cooldown, and maybe in that case, you'd want to pop off 2 or 3 wraths. So certainly there is a little bit of oddness to aspects of the way this spec is done now. It is a lot less sort of smooth and streamlined. For some people, that'll be a pro. For others, it will be a con. Then finally, I'd say this, the choice between spending your AP on Star Surge or Starfall, that is more interesting than it's been in the past, right? Because you can extend your Eclipse, or you can use the Starfall for the AoE damage, the dot extension, and then if you talent into it, the ability to cast while you are moving. There are times, though, where you would want maybe a longer Eclipse, but you would also want to extend your dots and keep the Starfall going. In those cases, I think it can be a little bit tricky to work out your AP spam to be just right. I mean, if the internal cooldown of Lunar Eclipse is about to expire, you know, should you keep up your Starfall and then just try to, you know, fish your next Eclipse with Wrath? And then even if you're doing that, like, there's some stuff that will just depend on the RNG gods, right? And whether that 25% chance of getting the eclipses you want will actually pop. And yeah, that bit can be a little bit iffy. To round this video off, I just want to talk about fixes, and I can think of a few very easy fixes to this spec. First, a new baseline cooldown that would be off the global cooldown that would flip your current Eclipse. I think that would give players just a bit more of a feeling of control, and if they do make a mistake, it would let them do a recovery, maybe on a 1-minute cooldown. Then I would have an out-of-combat buff that would guarantee your next Wrath or Starfire to proc its associated Eclipse. I think that would really help things out. And overall, I think that this new design, right, it would feel quite good in really high pull M+, or when you're raiding, but in a slower pace Mythic Plus and general world content, I actually do think, yeah, there's times where it can feel a bit worse to play than its Legion and BFA equivalent. Now that said, if those problems are fixed, then I think it would feel quite good to play though, and that would leave this as a spec that has seen decent improvements in most areas. Certainly I'll say this, I like extending my Eclipses, I like fishing for the right one depending on my situation. Right now, though, I'll say this, it does feel very first pass, and it is at a stage where I think basic usability improvements for this spec should be considered. Then, past that, there is, I suppose, one good pro that I haven't really mentioned, and that is that you're a Druid. Druids are seeing a lot of stuff be baselined, so you will have so much utility. The other forms are generally a bit more useful. You've got more utility, you've got like a baseline Stampeding Roar, which is really nice to see, and then your affinity talents actually give you an extra on-use ability. So for your situationals, well, yeah, you can actually go into the right affinity for the job, get a little bit more utility, and help your party out more. And I think that will feel really good. So overall, I'll say this. There is promise in this new direction, but there certainly are creases, and I do think the Blizzard should work on ironing out those creases. So there you have it, the balanced Druid. Certainly a mixed bag. It's quite weird. I feel that by, well, leveling in Bastion and playing around with smaller sort of combat, you definitely get the worst side of this spec. That said, once you are, you've multi-dotted a bunch of guys, right? And you are jumping up and down, flapping your wings, you got your Starfall, because man, the new Starfall is pretty damn cool, isn't it? You've got that rolling, and you just have your screen, it's full of numbers. It is very satisfying. So I think this spec right now, it's got issues in day-to-day gameplay, but I think that the fixes I propose in this video would really improve those a lot. I hope the devs take a look at that anyway. But I do think that once you actually get into, say, a raiding context, this will fare a little bit better. So I'd love to hear what have you got to say. Honestly, to be completely real with you, the last time I properly was into balance was when I was doing my Legion class reviews. That was towards the end of that expansion, and it was pretty darn fun. So if you are a more up-to-date BFA balanced Druid and you've got it fully Azerite traded up, you've got your essences and all that, I'd love to know, how does this feel for you? How does it stack up? Let me know down below. If you want something else to watch, there'll be Demon Hunter on the channel today for definite. And of course, there is our other channel where you can get some game industry news. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next time.